On March 24, 2021, Azvalor held its 6th Annual Investors Conference at the Kinepolis Movie Theatres in Madrid.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to this 6th Annual Investor Conference of Azvalor. It is 3 minutes past 6 of the 24th of March 2021, and we are now beginning this conference.
This year's conference had the same format as the last 5 years, starting with a 30-minute presentation, which was followed by the numerous questions that the management company received from its investors. Álvaro Guzmán de Lázaro opened the presentation by commenting on the results achieved in 2020.
In the slide you can see the results of last year. The results were lower than the indices in 2021. This trend has reversed. Now we are above the indices, and from the beginning, as in the rest of the value world, these results, even if they are positive, we made 26% in the main fund, but since the beginning, they are not yet satisfactory for us, so we don't really feel proud of them.
Although, as they indicate, fortunately, there may be light at the end of the tunnel, as funds have experienced significant increases since the lows hit in March 2020, namely plus 118% Azvalor International, plus 47% Azvalor Iberia, and plus 145% Azvalor Blue Chips.
After such significant decreases as the ones we experienced, I have to say that fundamentals are quite robust, and it's likely that in the next few years we are going to be exceeding the market, as the situation was at other historical times.
After the pandemic impact on global economies during 2020, Azvalor expects global economic growth to be reasonably robust.
Reasonably robust growth is expected for this year. It is to be noted that emerging economies in China will grow more than the rest of the world. This is something that might be significant for our portfolio, because those are economies that will have greater population increases and more productivity. And these are real growth rates. So if inflation was higher, then the growth would be lower. But we don't really add value here. We add value in the selection of companies where we invest our money.
Fernando Bernat gave an overview of the Iberian and international portfolios and their upside potentials.
I would like to begin by conveying a very clear message, namely that after rising 100% from minimum levels, our portfolios can double their value. So the potential that we have calculated is precisely 100%, as Álvaro said, after the plummeting of last year.
In the case of Azvalor Iberia, he highlighted that they are a cast of leading companies, which they have followed and known for over 20 years, run by a clear owner and with very solid balance sheets.
And this is the most important slide with respect to our Iberian portfolio. This is the slide that compares price, which is the yellow line, which is the liquid value of the fund, and the value that we estimate, which is the blue line. So that's the key, that's the result of the analysis that we carry out, and I've explained it in the past, but it's always useful to remember it, which reflects this 100% potential I was mentioning.
With regard to the international portfolio, Fernando emphasized it is a highly diversified portfolio across sectors and companies, which brings together some of the best assets in the world. Leaders in their sectors, with little debt, no technological disruption risk of, and tremendously liquid.
The potential, here we have a comparison of potential and price. And at present, it is more than 100%, as we said at the beginning.
Finally, regarding Azvalor Blue Chips, he pointed out that most of the companies that make up this portfolio are in the Iberian and international funds, and therefore some of the attributes mentioned are also applicable to this portfolio.
Now, the interesting thing about this fund is that it's very interesting in terms of managed volume and large and liquid companies. So it's a very agile fund, and therefore very interesting because it can take better advantage of volatility and value creation that we achieve with the rotation of the companies in the fund. The potential which is slightly lower than that of the main funds, Iberia and International, but it is a fund with a very attractive potential as well.
Álvaro Guzmán de Lázaro then explained how, through turnover, a fund can have an attractive upside potential, despite having had strong revaluations. In doing so, he wanted to show a real example, the one of Barrick Gold and Kinepolis.
Imagine the fund is a share. Let's say instead of having 60 shares in its portfolio, let's say we only had one share. You buy at 100 and goes up to 200. It went up 100%. If you sell that share and you buy another one, which went from 200 to 100, and the fund still has 100% of revaluation potential. And that is what we call rotation. As companies go up in value, we sell them. And we buy others that, in principle, we look for those that have fallen, although they're still worth a lot. And an example of those rotations, because we've done many, and we're just going to mention a few, but one example is Barrick Gold. We bought Barrick Gold in October 2016 at about $15. We bought more 2 years later at $10, and their share went up 150%. In November of last year, we sold part of it, not all the shares, part of the shares, and we started to buy shares from Kinepolis. In October 2020, just when we were selling Barrick, we bought Kinepolis, which had fallen from 60 euros per share to less than 20. So we saw something that went up 150%, and we buy something else that fell by 2/3 of its value. And so Kinepolis then went up 125%. So it's as we would have sold Barrick at double the price.
Beltrán Parajes continued the presentation, making some observations about 2020, and how in a year in which the markets have challenged us in such a demanding way and which has caused so much pain to society, there was also room for enriching reflections.
I think that this is the image that defines the year 2020. Our friends Obelix and Asterix that we've known for more than 40 years have taught us for years that you needed to resist. Resistance is the name of the game. And with great challenges, they resisted. They withstood the threats of the Roman Empire. So the year 2020, for all those of you who are not having a good time and are suffering, this is what it is. And this is, I think, what has happened to us, the base of 6th Azvalor investors, that has behaved as we thought they would. But when tested, people might react differently. But they're respecting whoever left because the circumstances have been demanding and difficult. But the truth is that the exceptional base of 6th Azvalor clients has withstood, and the reward has been the return that we have achieved after 6 or 8 months.
CFO and COO Sergio Fernández Pacheco summarized some aspects of 6th Azvalor's activity in 2020 and announced new operational functions.
In terms of our website, it is still a very important critical channel to communicate with our investors, our potential investors. We have received over 1.2 million visits, 600,000 users, and our YouTube channel has had 144,000 viewings, and we've covered about 2 million minutes. In terms of digitation, which is something that we really lay great store by because of its impact on the company's efficiency and the reduction of operational risk, we're still moving forward. I just want to mention a new service that we are going to offer, linked to the PSD2 directive, which is direct payment, bound us to different things. First of all, we had to have sustainability risk integration policy, and we just have to the idea is to organize or systematize the management of the different risks, especially corporate governance related risks.
Javier Sáenz de Senzano explained the performance of Azvalor managers in 2020.
The Azvalor managers' portfolio practically suffered no changes in 2020. The investments are the same, and the profitability reached minus 50%, and the liquidated value reached 51 euros. But since then, the profitability has been of 115%, including a rise in 2021 of around 26%.
During the conference, there was also time for Davalor, Azvalor's Solidarity Fund. Through the screening of a video, José María Márquez, head of Africa Directo, showed us on site in northern Uganda the finished and fully operational project of the primary school built with Davalor funds. One of the many projects in operation thanks to the over 2 million euros already invested by the fund.
First of all, I want to congratulate all the co-investors, those of you who were patient enough after the last conference. But I want to mention that not all the merit belongs to the people I just mentioned. We've also received the help of our co-donors. These are people who are giving their lives in the field in Africa. And, there's so much to do, and now with COVID.
To conclude the presentation and before opening the Q&A session, Álvaro Guzmán de Lázaro summed up with several remarks, such as Azvalor's exceptional client base, the consolidated team of professionals, and the high potential of a mature portfolio they know well and with good return prospects.
I said it and I repeat it now. With the fundamentals we have today, the logical thing would be to outperform the market for several years in a row. And now we can open the Q&A.
The presentation was followed by a Q&A session where the co-chief investment officers answered all the questions and concerns raised by investors. From Azvalor and through its website, they invite us to see all the questions they were asked and to select individually the ones we are interested in listening to.
What do you think are the differences between value managers and you? Or why is Azvalor different from other value managers? And in terms of differences with other value managers, I don't think it is us who should say this, but there are many things that we have in common. But what is important is to mention the differences with the largest managers, because there the focus is quite different. Our focus is return, because our money is at stake, the money of our friends, family, and yours, whilst in those companies, they focus more on the business. And very often you will have seen that they give public growth targets as trying to find the virtue in size. We, on the contrary, and in this I do think we are quite unique, we have made a public commitment from the beginning to limit the size. So the focus is completely different.